Shalom uvracha. Welcome to everyone. It's Erev Parshat Ki Tavo. It's Thursday morning. I hope everyone is well. First of all, we have in mind we continue to daven for all those who are ill and refuah shlema. We continue to have in mind all those throughout the world who are being challenged by the situation, health-wise, emotionally, and otherwise, economically. And again, we daven and pray and think about everyone. Also want to wish, I hope all those in the community who started to send their children to school this week, I hope it was uneventful, and I hope it went smoothly and safely, and it should continue to go smoothly and safely. Just big success, I hope, for everyone, and support to everyone. And those who are not able to go to school or not ready to go to school, we also hope that their electronic remote learning, distance learning also will go well and will be as successful as possible. I want to, again, encourage everyone is invited to our meet and greet and treat this coming Shabbat, the last one of the season, on our yard, socially distanced with masks at 5:30, from 5:30 to 6:30 this coming Shabbat afternoon, 740 Palmer Avenue. So this week's parasha is Parshat Ki Tavo. It is the last parasha containing the chunk of mitzvot, the central part of this book, the Ne'um HaMitzvot, the speech that contained the mitzvot, the repetition of the mitzvot, as well as new mitzvot. And it ends with a covenant ceremony, because there's a new covenant. The Jewish people have been standing on Arvot Moav, in the Moabite territory, on the banks, the east bank of the Jordan, looking ready to enter the land of Israel, the second generation. And they received a new covenant, in addition to the covenant that they had received at Sinai. In fact, at the end of Parshat Ki Tavo, as the Torah concludes the sanction, which is the sanction on the Brit, on the covenant, the Torah says, Eila divrei habrit, chapter 28, verse 69. Eila divrei habrit asher tziva Adonai et Moshe lichot bnei Yisrael be'eretz Moav. These are the words of the covenant. Milvad habrit asher karati tam bechorev. In addition to the covenant that God had made with the Jewish people at Sinai, there was a secondary covenant, a second covenant. And one of the interesting things about this second covenant is that the Bible says that when you go into the land of Israel, you're going to do a third covenant ceremony on Har Grizim and Har Eval, and you're going to put the people, the different shvatim, on different mountains, and you're going to bless them and curse them. But in addition, there's a new element that is not explicit in any of the previous covenants, and that takes place in chapter 27. After Moses tells the Jewish people that these are the tribes that are going to stand on Har Grizim in Samaria, and these are the ones who are going to stand on Har Eval, symbolic of the two options of blessing and curse, the Bible then lists 11 different mitzvot that Moshe Rabbeinu introduces with the terminology of arur. These are not found beforehand, meaning some of the mitzvot are found beforehand in the Torah, but these are mitzvot that are 11 specific mitzvot where Moshe goes out of his way to say arur ha'ish that does this. Arur ha'ish, cursed is the person who does this. Cursed, not just general curses. If you don't keep the covenant, you'll have famine and you'll have exile. But cursed is the person who does this. Cursed is the person who does that. And it's interesting, some of the examples. Arur ha'ish asher yaseh pesel u'masecha to'avat Hashem v'sam baseter. Person who makes an idol and puts it in private, doesn't advertise it. Arur makle aviv imo. Cursed is the person who disdains and shows disrespect to his parents. Arur masig gvul re'eu. Cursed is the person who trespasses, moves the boundary marker on the lawn or on the yard without, etc. Cursed is the one who is Mateh Mishpat Ger V'Yatom, the one who distorts the justice of the convert and the widow. And then it has a series of sexual prohibitions, Arur Shochevim Chotanto, Arur Shochevim Kol Behema. And then it says, Arur Makei Re'eu Baseter, Arur Lokeach Shochad Lakot Nefesh Dam Naki. Cursed is the person who kills someone in private, and cursed is the person who takes a bribe. And there's only 11, and at the end there is a kind of generic one. Arur asher lo yakim et divrei Torah zot lasot otam v'amar kol ha'am amen. So the question is, why these specific averot are mentioned here, singled out? And it seems the answer is pretty clear if you look carefully at the language. It starts and ends with a very interesting term. It says, Arur asher yaseh pesel u'masecha, to'avat Hashem, maseh decharash, v'sam baseter. Cursed is the person who makes an idol privately and puts it, hides it away from the eyes of the community. And at the end, right before the last Arur, it says, Arur makereu baseter. Cursed is the one who kills someone secretly, Seter. The Torah repeats that in this context. And as Ibn Ezra notes, when he talks about Vitam, the explanation, Lazkir Eile Yud Aleph Averot, these 11 Averot, these 11 mitzvot, Bavur Shiyuchal Lasotam Baseter, because you can do all of these privately, meaning often they're done behind the scenes. When we talk about moving a marker, there's a big piece of land. When nobody's around, you move the marker a few feet. Every day you move it a few inches, a few feet, and you've gained some land surreptitiously, deceitfully. You build an idol privately. You curse your parents behind closed doors. You take a bribe behind closed doors. Arur makeh re'eu basater. Privately. There's an element of hiddenness. And on a practical level, we understand why these are introduced here at the end of the 40 years. In the desert, the Jewish people were all together. It was very hard to hide anything in close quarters where you were together, tightly, a society. The social pressure was intense. Everyone was in everybody's business, like a kibbutz. But when you're going to go into the land, and some people are going to live in the north, and some people are going to live in the south, and people are going to live all over the place, and it's cities and sprawl, and hundreds of miles between one yishuv and another yishuv, one city and another city, there can become the alienation and the anonymous, and you can go behind closed doors. And in public, you'll be fine. You'll keep up appearances. But in private, what's going to happen? Where you have more distance and you don't have real social distance and you don't have the social capital and the social pressure and the working together. The last few months, for many of us, we've really moved to a baseter. Certainly in the early weeks and months of the lockdown, right? You don't know whether I'm wearing pajama pants or whether I'm wearing tuxedo pants or whether I'm wearing pants at all when you're on Zoom. You don't know. Now again, the same thing. Our religious life turned much more inward. There wasn't the public dimension of shul, of doing mitzvot in public. The mitzvot were in private. Now for some people that was a tremendous strength to daven together with their children every Friday night or Shabbat morning, to try to find that piece of their spirituality internally was very, very uplifting. On the other, for other people, it was very disheartening to the point where their religious and spiritual connections have really fallen. And that's a challenge. And what we do behind closed doors in terms of the negatives are also a challenge. When no one sees us, when we don't have the social pressure, how we keep our life of mitzvot, how do we keep ourselves connected to God? How do we keep ourselves connected to Am Yisrael and to the covenant becomes a challenge. And so when we can, and as, thank God, the virus has receded in our area, we need to both make sure that our internal connection is strong. And for those who can't come back for health reasons and for emotional reasons to the public domain, you have to keep trying to find ways of learning, of reading, of davening, of connecting, of any way possible, and taking advantage of the Zoom opportunities to connect with community. And if you're willing to walk, outside for a few minutes and to come and see other people for a few minutes, and if you're able to come to synagogue, to come, and again in a socially distant and masked way, and if you're not, as to find those ways to connect and use the Zooms legitimately. But more importantly is all of us, we don't have the same dimension of public religious life. And we shouldn't until this virus is really under control. And it's dangerous that some people have just kind of, make believe that everything is behind us and are not careful when they go outside or when they go to smachot or when they make smachot. And other people are very careful, thank God. And we have to keep up that diligence. And we have to think about our seter, right? We say, La'olam yehei adam yirei shamayim b'seter v'galui. We should be yirei shamayim, we should be pious, both in private and public. And especially when the public dimension of our religious life is not as acute and as intense. That's the area, our seter. We want to make sure that our seter is baruch, is blessed, and not, God forbid, arur. And that's part of our reality today. I want to wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom, and hope to see you, if you can, if it's safe for you and for your families, on Shabbat afternoon. Come by for a short, quick meet and greet, a Shabbat Shalom. Take a popsicle, take a treat, other treats, and Shabbat Shalom to everyone, and a meaningful week.